All right, good evening. I would like to bring to order the March 18th, 2026 meeting in the Sandwich Conservation Commission. My name is James Andrea. Present tonight are
Erin Nicholson,
Jeremy Shea,
Kimberly Walsh,
Jonathan Klein,
Tyler Goudreau,
Bernice Waller,
Linda Romano.
Kasha Koss.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint the alternate members for full voting for Kasha Koss and Linda Romano.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Please note this meeting is being recorded live and streaming on Sandwich Community Television. Live broadcast can be viewed by visiting sandwichcommunitytv.org on Government Live Stream, where you can view later on Government On Demand. You can also view on local Comcast Channel 9. I would like to remind everyone of our meeting format. For all hearings, the applicant will be allowed adequate time to present their project to the commission. Upon completion of their presentation, the commission will be allowed to question the applicant, ensue discussion, and ask for staff comment. Upon completion of the staff and commission discussion, I will read and summarize for the record any public comment received by staff prior to the meeting. I will announce public comment to the audience, or any interested parties are to raise their hands. I will ask you to come up front. Please speak clearly into the microphone, stating your name and address for the affiliation. And 3 minutes will be allowed. All speakers are to address the commission, not applicants or audience members. When your 3 minutes are up, I will ask you to take your seat. A reminder to all, public comment is not a Q&A forum. Upon closure of the public comment, applicant may add additional information or comment to the commissioners. The commissioners will deliberate along with the staff. Finally, I want to remind everyone that this commission is comprised of your neighbors volunteering our valuable time to help protect the town's natural resources to the best of our abilities. Our job is to uphold the provisions set forth by the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, as well as the Town of Sandwich Wetland Bylaws, Chapter 7. We appreciate your understanding. Okay, just going to make an adjustment in the agenda and move up in other business item to the front right now for the Town of Sandwich for the shared use path informational update with the engineering department. Thank you.
how are you doing? I'm Sam Jensen, town engineer. Thank you for the opportunity to come in and talk to you. If you could bear with me for one moment, we have a couple of slides to share.
Perfect.
And you want to try the cable, or do you want to?
Yeah, I can't get the screencast to work. Sorry about that. So
Did you get to the Wi-Fi?
I'm on the Sands Hill Wi-Fi. I see there's the other one, the AM 3100 one,
You may need to borrow a little
which
bit.
has a password on it.
Okay. You've had that before, right? With the password?
What do you need? Sorry.
Wi-Fi password.
Yeah,
Oh, do you need it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's there's two.
16, do capital D, capital A.
So it's the address here. It's 16,
It's a 16
and then
here.
Dewey with a capital D,
Okay.
D-E-W-E-Y, and a capital A-V-E. Just a capital A. And then lowercase.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll try to get on this Wi-Fi. If this doesn't do it, then we can use the cord.
Usually it throws a code right on that.
It didn't go on that Wi-Fi, so we'll just do hardwire. That makes it. Yeah, from despair. Yeah.
If you just give it a minute, I think it should just go. Just takes a second for it to. All right. Okay. So, yep, just to repeat here, my name is Sam Jensen, town engineer with the town of Sandwich. This is a project we've been working on for some time. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come in. We won't take up too much of your time here. I know you've got a busy agenda, lots to do. With me tonight,
I'm Sean Pillay. I'm chair of the Bikeways and Pedestrian Committee. Nice to see you all.
Steve Rhodes. I'm a project manager with the consultant VHB, working with the town on this project.
Also with VHB, Casey Barger, environmental scientist.
jump right into it, Steve?
Sure. Yeah. Jump right in.
Let me just
set the stage.
do
Yeah.
an overview.
Yeah.
So you all are likely aware that the Sandwich, the Service Road Trail was completed within the past year. That is a path that extends from Chase Road all the way to Route 130 along the service road. Shared use path with a spur that goes up towards the golf course. There's a parking lot at the golf course for folks to park at, and then hop on the little spur trail and get down the other trail. People are also using that parking lot to access some of the mountain bike trails that are at the golf course and behind Oak Ridge as well. So to seize upon the momentum of the completion of that project, we've been working on planning a connection from basically the parking lot that is near Robin Road at the end of Service Road to come down the rest of Service Road, connect to Route 130, ideally a shared use separated path along 130 down to Sham Road, something that the state is taking on because it involves the interchange there of the highway. And then we, as a town committee and staff, are working on planning a connection that extends from Sham Road down to Morse Road. The preferred route is to go through the fish hatchery and then come up along 6A to Tupper Road and to Freezer Road and connect to the canal. So through a series of Mass Trails grants, we've had this in the planning stages really for a couple of years now. I think the feasibility study was completed in 2022, and we've been just proceeding from there once the preferred route was identified. So we've reached the point in the planning process where we're doing outreach to various committees and stakeholders, and because this will touch upon or border upon conservation areas and have certain wetland issues that we have to deal with along the preferred route. That's why we're here tonight, to kind of bring you up to speed on where we're at. This is largely an overview, not super detailed, but that way we're all on the same page when we walk out of this meeting. With that, I'll turn it over to Steve. He's the expert.
Yeah. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, John. So I think John just gave a good overview of our outline here. Start walking through it. So when you step out from a town level, on a regional level across the Cape, this trail network and the work that was just completed on Service Road is part of the Vision 88, which is a kind of movement coined by the Cape Cod Commission for a 88-mile connected off-road shared use path or path network from Provincetown all the way down to Woods Hole. So we're working on a number of segments of that in Barnstable and in town here currently to kind of do this westward extension of the existing Cape Cod Rail Trail. This is a pretty exciting point where we're at because it gets us to the canal, which unlocks a lot of miles there. So we're looking to kind of continue the momentum we have from Service Road and bring this project to fruition. Going back to the town level, Sean mentioned we had a feasibility study that was done as part of one of the first grant efforts in partnership with the state. And that looked at kind of our kind of spaghetti network of options to get from the endpoint of Service Road at the bottom right of the slide across Route 6 and then over to the canal in one way or another. So we looked at Sham Kroll State Forest, we looked at going right down Water Street through the center of town. We looked at Charles Street. We looked at our preferred route currently, which is in orange and yellow and a lot of other colors. So this is what we started from. We've honed in on the preferred route that Sean just described. I don't have to go through that again, but this is the kind of the visual top-down view of that. This is about a 2.3 mile project from the intersection of Sham Road at Route 130 up to Freezer Road and the canal path network. When you add in the connection across Route 6, it adds about another mile to connect up to Service Road where the construction ended for that path. So we're talking about 3.3 miles in total for this gap to be connected. Various features that this kind of like mixes in within town. We have, of course, the existing network on Service Road, which was Sean described as a good connection into a bunch of multimodal assets there. Across the other side of town, we have, all the various historic and cultural features that this project will come not directly past, but close enough to get people access to them. So what you see is a real benefit to the community in that sense. Going on to goals. So we're looking to create a context-sensitive project that will improve the safety and accessibility of all residents and visitors in this town to this future trail network. We're looking to just overall increase connectivity across town, which is part of the bigger picture, and across Cape, which is part of the Vision 88. And then, hoping for economic stimulus, bringing more visitors from off Cape and on Cape to town to connect to local businesses and the resources that you already have here. So the primary route, based on feedback on the feasibility study, is a separated shared use path All that means is that we're not looking to construct any of this portion on roadway pavement. So we always want some kind of buffer between the road and the path itself. And it's going to be a 10 to 12 foot wide paved path. Our current scope, which is ongoing and some completed tasks, includes initial environmental research and due diligence, historic and cultural field work, traffic counts analysis. We've done a land survey of the preferred alternative route, so we're designing now on a real topographic map. We've been engaging the stakeholder and public outreach program since the feasibility study to get feedback and input on the project. And then we're working on a preliminary, we're calling it a 10% design at this stage. We're working toward a pre-25% design stage at the moment. And I'm going to turn it over to Casey to go over some of the specifics on the resource areas.
So VHB delineated this route a couple years ago. It was end of 2023, beginning of 2024. I won't go through the whole list because there's a lot of resource areas in this area. But the biggest breakdown is between the coastal resources, which are going to be focused in that central region around Mill Creek there. And then we have some inland resources both north and south of that area. So wetlands along Morse Road and then through the fish hatchery area. And then we have one crossing at Dock Creek, which is south of Liberty Street. And then keep going north along Route 6A and you get the Mill Creek and some more coastal resources there, and then the path goes up Tupper Road and more BBW and some bank up there. And the next couple of slides show it. Thanks, Steve. So again, this is the coastal area. It's Mill Creek. That's looking west from the existing bridge. And then we delineated some salt marsh on the different quadrants of the bridge. So we're taking that into the project design considerations. And then the next slide has some inland resource areas. So just a sampling of the different environments that we have out here. So we have some frag areas, more emergent wetlands, some forested wetlands. So a large variety along this whole route because you are touching inland and coastal resource areas. And then we just threw up a quick map of the open space within the project route area. So there's 3 municipal open space parcels. So there's the Upper Shawm Lake Conservation Area down at the southern limit of the project. And then in the middle around Mill Creek, you have the Brady's Island Conservation Area. And then just before you get to Freezer Road, there's the Water District land where the existing water department is located. And then we have some state land. So that's the fish hatchery shown. And then one federal property owned by the Army Corps, which is up on Freezer Road for recreation area and access.
So one thing we definitely want to be aware of when we're planning and kind of walking through these design stages is the potential for future flooding and storm inundation. And so the Cape Cod Commission has done a lot of good work on low-lying roads in the area, and we intersect with quite a few of them, Route 6A. And as we kind of step forward in the time projections, you just obviously see more and more potential coming in on there. So we're going to look to have a number of design elements that are kind of considering this. We're proposing a separated bike ped bridge, so it'll be a new bridge structure adjacent to the Route 6A bridge over Mill Creek. And so that's going to have some height standards and clearance standards to the water level that will be built into kind of potential future conditions. And then path design, where possible, we can raise the path up, use like natural terrain to kind of elevate the path above certain flood levels, and just looking to use, natural buffers where we can. So any path construction of this type will have some tree removals, but we're looking to replant where we can. So we'll be bringing in native species and things like that into the landscaping program of the project. A little bit more details on status. So we've engaged with Mass DOT quite a bit at this point to initiate the project. So what that did was gain approval for state and federal construction funding. So it doesn't need to be a solely municipally funded project. As I mentioned, we've done the survey-based plan mapping and resource area delineation that Casey and her team did. Our outreach program is ongoing, which includes outreach to committees and commissions such as yourselves. And then with Mass DOT, we're looking at that pre-25% design coordination. Just yesterday, we held a scoping meeting with Mass DOT, all members from Boston headquarters to the district level. And we had some good discussions in that meeting. Couple of quick visuals of what this project kind of looks like on the ground. So when we talk about that separated shared use path, we also talk about a grass buffer between the road and the pathway itself. So you have a kind of safety element where people aren't right on the road shoulder along busy roadways. And then really the path is just tying into that existing vegetation, maintaining that as much as we can, trying to blend the path grades into the natural terrain as best we can while maintaining ADA compliance. Outside of a more natural area, you might have a pathway across some residential frontages, and that just really, in some cases, can repurpose existing sidewalks. So we're just widening out what's already there today as a pedestrian facility, blending that in with existing driveways and frontages. Stepping down on the ground even more for some other examples on Route 6A. This is looking toward Jarvis Street intersection. Before we have the sidewalk, after we have a widening to call this a shared use path. And then down on Freezer Road, what is right now just a gravelly, sort of grassy road shoulder, can become kind of cleaned up pretty nicely to tie the proposed project into the existing facility at the parking lot there. Next few slides are kind of just an example to give an idea of the iterative nature of where we're at with the design right now. So we initially came in with an idea to cross Morse Road at the bend beyond the last ball field parking lot, and then traverse across the fish hatchery property. We got some feedback from residents and from the fish hatchery property that they looked a little bit further separation from property lines, try to keep things away from their facility as best we can. So we're in kind of a blending scenario now. We also thought that curve in the road is really a little bit tight, so we want to try to pull the path crossing away from that where we can. And so we're currently at an updated crosswalk near the parking lot, kind of in more of a tangent section of the roadway. We don't have to look through a curve. And then the path traversing across the fish hatchery property a little bit further away from those property lines. Ultimately, we're going to come out of the fish hatchery property at Main Street. And so we're going to propose right now a crossing, a mid-block crossing of Main Street, which will take you through some town parkland, which can be improved with amenity areas, almost like a rest area, particular facility, depending on what the appetite is for that. And then you join Route 6A. Just yesterday, we talked to Mass DOT about adding some scope into the project to improve the Route 6A Main Street intersection, which we notice is lacking some pedestrian infrastructure today, no crosswalk, likely outdated pedestrian curb ramps there that we can add in as part of this project. So as next steps, we're going to continue this stakeholder engagement program as we work concurrently with the design advancements. That's with Mass DOT, Department of Fish and Wildlife as the keepers of the fish hatchery, and then local communities and offices. We're currently working under scope that was awarded to the town in the FY26 grant rounds with the Mass Trails program, which is refining these pre-25% deliverables and gaining more clarity on future deliverables for the next major design submission. The town submitted an application for additional grant funding this past February, which we're waiting to hear notice on, which should happen sometime this summer, ideally. And then Mass DOT still needs to work out the construction timeline and funding source. So we don't currently have a advertisement year. We're just doing these kind of steps to work toward that right now. Turn it back to Casey quickly to talk about some of the potential future of permitting.
So this permitting list is going to be kind of dependent on the final design and different impacts to different resource areas, but just kind of a general list here. So for you all, the notice of intent for the work will be submitted to the Conservation Commission. We'll do a public hearing similar to this setting. Then just another list. So we have some Army Corps permitting, nationwide permit for Section 404 and Section 408 for that access along Freezer Road. MIPA and NEPA permitting with funding, Chapter 91 around Mill Creek, some U.S. Coast Guard coordination, some Section 106, which is usually triggered by Army Corps permitting, and then Article 97 for those open space areas. Some other permits might be added depending on impacts and everything. So just kind of a general list for right now.
And then stepping a little bit further out in time and just looking at a really rough schedule on the future milestones. So we're anticipating right now that we can make a 25% design submission, which will be the first full design submission that the town and Mass DOT review in the winter of 2027 into calendar term 2028. Then we can move forward with the 75% design and more right-of-way program and begin the initial permitting stage sometime around the fall of 2028, which kind of opens a large permitting window for all that list of things that Casey just touched on. That'll overlap with some more design submissions in the spring of 2029, and then we can move into the final design, right-of-way acquisitions, and advertising the projects somewhere between 2029 and 2033, again, depending on when the funding year is realized for that. So that was obviously a lot of info very quickly. We're happy to take questions.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll just add just one quick thing just to reinforce that this is a regional project, but we're really looking at designing this on the local level to be as sensitive to the local context as possible. We've got historic elements, cultural features in town, and then we have our open spaces, our parks, our wetland resources, and the character of our road corridors. You know, so we're really trying hard to work with all the local interests. So we're doing a lot, as much as we can, to get out and have as many conversations early in the design process to encourage any kind of feedback that we can get. We do have a project webpage. It's linked off the engineering department webpage. If you do a quick search for it, you'll find it. And if you don't, just get in touch with me, Sam Jensen, at the engineering department. So.
Thank you.
So how much vegetation are we talking about? That's going to be disturbed, that's currently undisturbed, that it's going to be taken out to make a, and is it 12 feet, you know, how much, like, what are we talking?
Yeah, I'd say it's unquantified at this point in the design. We will be able to quantify it a bit more as we move the design forwards, but right now the biggest undisturbed swath is the fish hatchery property because it's all wooded. And so outside of that, the project would be fairly adjacent to already disturbed areas roadside wise. So we're talking, there's some tree removals there, but there's not like the same scale as what will happen at the fish hatchery. The envelope is about the 12-foot wide path, and then you have a typical 3-foot level shoulder on either side of the paved path. So you're up to 18 feet there, and then you typically need another, 5 feet or so in the ideal scenario to tie in the grading. That would kind of be your clearing limit. So it's 23 to 25 foot swath maybe that it installs. So it's a pretty wide corridor. But that's the typical section that the design standards are kind of holding us to for this type of funding.
I'll add to that aside from Morse Road and the fish hatchery, we're really trying to repurpose existing facilities so that the disturbance along much of the route is minor, if inconsequential. There are a couple pinch points. There's one at the Toby House on Route 130, Water Street, where we're coming pretty close to some features like rhododendrons and rock walls, and we've had some conversations with that particular homeowner and working with them to try to, instead of 12 feet there, is it 10 feet or even slimmer. Same with by the funeral home. There's a giant memorial tree out front of the funeral home that we will have to figure out how to navigate around, but the intention is to not disturb it. It's just to work around it.
No, I like it. And as you guys, like you were saying with the Main Street intersection, as you come by it, it gets improved, so.
I think the biggest impact is really that going through the fish hatchery like that with a road. That's big. That's kind of like a width of a road. And I used to live in a house right across from there. There's so much wildlife in there, like bald eagles and fish cats and all kinds of things used to come out of there. And right now it's mostly undisturbed, like nobody goes in there. So that's the only thing I think that, it would be, it's a very sensitive area. It's very, very virgin in that particular area. So how did coming through that become the preferred path? Like what was the preference for taking that route instead of some other kind of tagging on to other developed kind of areas that are maybe even more accessible for, you know, houses and neighborhoods to kind of get to and like chime into. What was the driver for that?
Well, there was a bit of a process of elimination. One of the considered routes was through the base, and they were pretty much a hard no.
Yeah, with
The
everything.
other was Sham Kroll State Forest, and getting up to the state forest was tricky along Sham Road as far as the road layout is concerned and the topography.
Yeah, it's very hilly.
And there was another consideration of doing rail with trail along the railroad line. Lots of complications and cost involved with that. So we wound up with basically two options that were considered as preferred options. One is the one that we've presented to you tonight. The other was to get down Charles Street through the transfer station land and the DPW. There's a kind of a corridor back there that we could connect to Charles Street and then come down to the village to Route 6A on Charles Street. The two challenges there. One of the priorities that was articulated by the committee at the time was that we connect to the village and as directly as possible. And the preferred route currently does that. The other challenge on Charles Street is similar to the Sham Road challenge. It's quite an uphill climb to get up there, or in reverse, descending down at a high rate of speed on Charles Street. And also, there are portions of Charles Street where the houses are right on top of the road. And so to do a separated facility on Charles Street would be a tremendous challenge. So that's how we kind of wound up where we are today. The fish hatchery land, aside from the concerns you've raised, which are completely valid concerns, because it is a state property, provided us with an opportunity to get from Morse Road to 6A without impacts on private properties, or at least a minimum amount of impacts on private properties.
And when you were speaking with the fish hatchery, they wanted you to stay more away from their facilities? Is that, because it seems like there's already like a disturbed chunk of land that the public is engaged with there, that it would make sense to kind of keep that activity kind of parallel and together. And
Completely agree with you. I'll let Steve and Sam speak to the direct interactions with the fish hatchery, but when we originally envisioned it, we envisioned exactly that, taking advantage of the roadway that's already there.
yeah,
They had actually cleared some trees out, if people remember that
I
from
do.
several years ago.
yeah.
So there was opportunity perhaps to utilize that space. But the fish hatchery pushed back on that, and I'll let you guys speak to that.
Yeah, what we heard from the fish hatchery staff was they really wanted this to be a very separate kind of lock and key facility away from the hatchery because of the their operational hours and their concerns with people coming in after hours and things like that. So I think that was really it. They didn't. We talked to them about opportunities for this path to kind of integrate in with the educational resources they have at the hatchery and kind of the opportunities there, and they just really weren't interested in that. So we proceeded with kind of being a neighbor to their facilities, but a separated, fence separated, security fence level separated neighbor.
Yeah.
And that, I would say that the design through that property is still something that's being worked out.
Yeah.
We have more discussions that we have planned. It's just a process that just takes some time.
Yeah, I think my only thought there, because that is tricky for you to get through. It's just there's so much development there. Just keep yourself like towards that. I mean, I think that would be great, and if they could even allow you to have some kind of gates or something that they open up so that people can get back there, because that's a little bit hidden. It's a little bit of a treasure, quite frankly. So I think it would be great that a path could engage with it. Some people could go there and show that off. And I wanted to say, bless your heart for the effort to put a bridge across the Mill Creek there, because that's something that needs to happen just for like the safety of people walking. There's like, you have to like dodge the poison ivy, and it's like you're gonna fall onto the road every time you try to put your tiny bike and walk beside it. So I think that's it's a huge undertaking that you're gonna have to go through to get that. So, but that's much needed. Like the community definitely needs that.
If anybody has had an opportunity to check out the path in Mattapoisett, which is a bridge facility over marshland and near beaches. That's the pictorial vision
Yeah.
that we have for something like this. This would be much smaller than that facility for sure.
Uh-huh.
But if you have an opportunity to go online and see photos of that or go visit it yourself, that's really what we're picturing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
The only other thing I was thinking about was that you're targeting the lawn between the pathways, which I understand is like an affordable thing to do. But it's often like a gravelly, weedy mess that needs to be mown with maintenance and not really nutrient requirements, because nobody ever does anything like that with those spaces. But if there were ever an opportunity to have some other kinds of vegetation that's more stable and less maintenance, and also speaks to, you know, some kind of environmentally forward thought process of not just putting in lawn. But lawn has a great purpose, and you can occupy spaces on lawn. But this is just in between space, so it's a perfect place where you could possibly incorporate planting if that were something that the project could afford.
Yep, there's definitely opportunities for that. Thank you.
Yeah, the one thing that stuck out to me was during the delineation, they identified some Phragmites and other invasive species. We're currently in the process of rewording some of our mitigation as it pertains to disturbance. That might be some areas where, as much as you're constrained with vegetation, being that we're adding some hardscaped areas, might be something that you could explore alternatives, so more of an invasive species removal as part of the mitigation, trying to at least show some where, in a lot of cases, there'll probably be some disturbance and there really won't be a whole lot of space for plantings. Maybe doing an alternative of invasive species removal to try to show some sort of give and take in some of those more sensitive areas. And yeah, I like your point about some of the lawn strips. If it's in sort of our jurisdiction, maybe those could be a health strip or even some stormwater management, just to kind of show a little bit of. Those could also be included as a mitigation alternative where if you're mitigation constrained. But very, very interesting.
Yeah, just to add on to that a little bit, one point I didn't mention was drainage. Linear drainage adjacent to the path is definitely a practice we'll look at. It's an option where when you have the leeway of having available right of way and space, you can definitely build it in. So that's something that's in our toolkit for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions? Anyone?
No?
I guess maybe just going off of the removal of things. I mean, there's a lot of good big trees on 6A, so I think my concern would be the heritage trees that have more significance than perhaps some of these other ones. And certainly we saw the outcry when they cut down the trees in front of the fish hatchery. So like of areas that people care a whole heck of a lot about, that's definitely one of them. On the other hand, like I growing up here have been thinking where this is going to go for a very long time. So the community, I think, has been curious. And like it really shows that you put a lot of thought. And I really thank you for the thought that you have put in from so many different levels, because it helps like reduce a lot of the stress I have of, this is going to be a game changer for really how people get to Sandwich. And like the challenges our beaches are facing, I think people are going to be moving more towards the inland and the forests. And this really opens up a lot of opportunities to celebrate the resources we have outside of the beaches. So I think that's really important. I certainly will have lots of questions once we get further of like, when we're connecting to old wagon roads off of the service road, like there's a lot of the branches that come out that I don't think is necessarily what you're thinking about with this plan, but is going to really shift how we get around town, which is a great opportunity, but also certainly presents a lot of other challenges. So that thinking ahead of the connections from there is one thing I really want to make sure that we are thinking about, because it's going to shift those neighborhoods of access.
We as a committee are definitely thinking about those things, and why we're putting so much emphasis on the completion of this crosstown connection is for that very reason, connection. This will enable connections for the Town Neck neighborhood, for Jarvisville, for the village itself, to connect to the other side of town in a non-vehicular way. And because the service road path crosses Quaker Meeting House already, that means there's connections to all of the schools in town, right? The high school, Oak Ridge, Forestdale. And as the path migrates from Barnstable to connect us, it connects us down Cape. So our primary focus as a committee is complete the spine so that the connections can happen.
And I like it goes off of a very old project. During the Great Depression, they had something called the Berkshire Trail, which ran from New York State to Provincetown for horses. And the idea was, how do we get people the economic stimulus? How do we get people into these places? Of course, they plowed it over with the highway, but you're going off of this idea that is very old of how do we connect. So thank you for what you're doing. Like I think it's super important for the future of this town and the towns around us. So you're putting in like really awesome work. So thank you so much for coming in for us.
Thanks for saying
All right. I think that's it. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, back to following the agenda. We're going to go back up to new filings to DEP file number SN66- not file. You don't have a number for it?
Yeah.
662069.
2069. Craig Johnson, Care Sandwich Downs Association, filed a notice of intent for maintenance of beach access stairs, gravel removal at 9 Beachway West, East Sandwich, map 96, lots 22, 23, 24, and 25.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good, how are you? My name is Tom Skirmahorn. I'm the representative of this NOI of the applicant Craig Johnson, 9 Beachway West. This is Barb Myers.
I'm the president of SDA.
And this NOI is to perform general maintenance of beach stairs, road work as required to correct the 2020 and 2022 Sandwich Downs Association, which I'll say SDA from here on in, violations on Beachway West. So this project is broken up into 3 tasks. And the first task is general maintenance of the stairs leading to the beach. And it's comprised of 2 fairly simple things. One of which is to level a portion of the stairs that has come down roughly about 5 or 6 inches over the years by putting wooden blocks on top of the pre-existing footings. And then one other area is to add 8 joist hangers in locations that are noted on the stairs themselves. So just those 2 items that need to be put in that location. The second task is the Beachway West is broken up into an area where there's an area that's north of 9 Beachway West driveway that is the north side heading towards the beach. And that particular area is, we'll be removing gravel down to a undefined level at this point in time and replaced with the 3/4 inch rounded stone. And then we'll be putting that over with a layer of medium sand and the depth, to support vegetation. So at this point in time, the depth is going to be site determined, and we've hired Strong Tree Engineering to come in and help us with the drainage operations, and then be able to support plantings broken down into beach grass, beach plum. There's a list in the narrative here about 6 or 7 different plantings that were put in, and then a plan for those for the plantings would go in after the fact once we put that in place. The third task is to solve the 2020 violation by replacing the bluestone with a simple 3/4 inch native stone. So it would just be taking that top layer off and putting the 3/4 inch layer stone down. And so beyond that, we've contracted Strong Tree Engineering to take a look at the upland water and to see if we can do a water study to try to mitigate the wash down of water that's going down through Beachway West down onto the beach and to prevent erosion. Any questions on that?
Thank you. I'd like to open up to public comment. All right, closing public comment, open up to the staff.
Yeah, so received this NOI and did a look back on previous applications. Looks like this proposed project seems to resolve everything that the past violations that were in existence before I started here. It looks like everything that you're proposing is looking to resolve that and mitigate those issues. And everything that you're asking also appears to comply with our current regs. It meets performance standards for those resource areas. Your NHESP letter that was issued back in 2023 is still valid. That's good for 5 years. And the project that you're proposing seems to be very similar to what was proposed back then. So I don't think there's any real alteration in there.
That's correct.
Okay, good. Really just seems like this is kind of a solution to what's been outstanding for a while. I will say there are 2 open orders of conditions right now that are on the property for the same work. So those would have to be closed out with a certificate of compliance for both at a later date. That really, to me, that shouldn't necessarily hold up this application because it's all for the same work. Originally, I know on the agenda, it looked like we were going to try to withdraw those without prejudice. And if they were still in the application form and they hadn't been issued orders of conditions, that you could do that. But at this point, because they're after a while, we found out that there's actually open orders and it's not just the applications that are pending. We can't withdraw an open order of conditions. So the solution there is just to close those out, and we would have done that had we gotten that information prior to this meeting. But we'll look to close those out at a later date and receive those applications to schedule later on. But that being said, I don't think it would necessarily need to hold up this notice of intent. So those are the main points in there. I've been out to the site numerous times. It does need help. The stairs are rough, so makes sense. And then the path down to the beach there, I can see where that would have been a violation. So getting that resolved, I think, will help a lot with the runoff too.
So may I ask a question?
Sure.
The conditions that you're talking about, that I wasn't on the committee then, but is that what?
I said I wasn't here either.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is that the conditions that the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife recommended in 2023?
So back in 2023 with that original notice of intent application, the end of that staircase is in NHESP habitat. So in order to work on that, they had to file with them. But the work description in that letter is the same as it is today in front of us.
Oh, okay.
From my understanding of all of it. So
I just picked that up. Okay.
I'd like to open it up to the board. Any comments from the members?
Well, I think in general, I don't have enough history to know what we're being asked to do here or why, about where the gravel is going, are there drainage issues where the gravel is going? Maybe some of the scans that we have are a little bit grainy. So if you could walk me through what you're talking about when you're talking about an incorporation of sand, of gravel with sand on top, and where that's going, and what is the purpose of all of that?
Okay, the north part of the, we'll say 9 Beachway West driveway, for many, many years, because of the wash down from upland water coming down.
Down the road?
Coming down within Sandwich Downs. Actually, Beachway Road is probably the biggest offender, where you get a big torrential rains. It runs down Beachway West, and what our goal is to mitigate some of that with some upland water study. And what's happened over the years at that particular section, it's been washed out and then put in with gravel has been replaced in there to assist in redirecting the water, but it's gone back decades. It's been just layers and layers of gravel that's gone on top of it, where at one point in time that was all permeable, sand. It was a sand dune at one point in time. I'm an old timer. I used to walk that, go over our dune there before the stairs were there. So over the years, there was a lot of gravel that was put in. And right now, what we're talking about in conjunction with Strong Tree Engineering is to go back to more of a sand type environment, some more permeable type thing that can solve some of the drainage issue and accept water down before it gets down onto the beach. And by doing so, then that's also going to allow for the plantings that the homeowners want to put in and the road owners want to put in after the fact to kind of make it look nice, but also to make it so it can support and help with any erosion that's going on.
And is Beachway West a private road?
It is.
Okay, and is, what is the current top, is it bituminous there? Paved or gravel?
It's all gravel, yeah.
It's all gravel?
Yeah.
So the whole Beachway Road is gravel?
Yep.
And you're proposing to do a portion of this gravel dig out area more
Yeah,
towards the
that's
dune?
a section of it down towards the beach that would go back to sand where what it was originally at.
I almost think it would be good for us to see this in a site review to see what we're dealing with this drainage. One of the things, just because I think this area has had a lot of discussion on it throughout its time with how the drainage is handled. Like, where is this water coming from? Could it be captured earlier before we're
That's our
trying to
goal.
store it down to the dune?
That's our goal is we've contracted Strong Tree Engineering to do the water study going all the way close to a little over a quarter of a mile upland on Beachway Road where most of the water comes from and try to offload some of the water before it gets down to Beachway West. Over the years, a lot of people have put up berms and things like that to push the water so it,
Stays away from
keep
them.
it going, keep it
Yeah.
going. So,
And that will be remediated. Is that something that you guys plan on taking care of as
Yeah.
well, or?
yeah, we're
We're
strong.
looking at remediation
Yeah.
recommendations.
For that,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're Strong Tree Engineering, we just contracted them and they'll be getting back to us with a 5-segment analysis of places that we can do things with the water before it gets down to Beachway West and really solve the problem as much as we can upstream. So in a good slug of rain, there's a lot of water coming down onto Beachway West and we're looking to mitigate that.
So can I answer too,
please.
for Bernice? Because you don't know the history, some of the people here have been around and know a lot of the history. So we're trying to sort of cover a couple of different things. We need to address the violations from 2020 and 2022, which is all about the wrong gravel, the wrong size, which we're trying to do. So in the middle of that, since we're doing the work on Beachway West, we also want to not have unintended consequences like making the drainage worse. And we want to make sure that whatever solution we do down there is going to sort of assist on the drainage side, even before the bigger water study. So the reason Strong Tree is involved is to help us do that. Why not, it doesn't make sense to replace all the gravel without trying to make it more permeable first. So the violations are the first thing because we want to get those done and off the books. And then just the added benefit of having Strong Tree involved allows us to address some of the drainage. We've had water studies or drainage studies before, and there is unfortunately, no easy solution. There's no land to drop drainage pits. There's not an easy solution. It will be whatever remediation recommendations we see that we could institute. We will certainly be considering based on whatever our funding is and that kind of thing. But it's really, for this purpose, it's really about not making the repairs to the violations and harming it on the other side. We want to make sure that we're covering the two sides. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Jen, I have a question for you. The road work that is being requested here, it's fixing a violation, but do we need to see that the Strong Tree studies that they have? Is that
The violation is more geared towards the wrong material was put on the road.
right?
Typically for anything in a dune environment or bank coastal, we do the clean wash around native stone.
Right,
And this gravel is essentially turned into hard pack.
right.
So, I mean, seeing the water study and things like that is helpful, but I really think the most, at its core, to resolve that violation is to just get that incorrect material out of there and replaced with what was required at the time, which would be the stone. It didn't go to an enforcement order level, it stayed in a
Right.
violation.
Yeah, I think we don't need to do that.
Yeah, no, I
Come
think-
in front of us,
And I
yeah.
think the solution is like what we've discussed, is just trying to get that area to be as pervious as possible, but also limit how much runoff is going elsewhere. Because the backside of that dune where the stairs are, it's really just kind of shaved off, and it's a pretty big cliff.
Is there a way that we could limit this NOI to the specific violation area and then anything else that expands beyond that, that helps the street in entirety later on down the road, whatever the engineering company brings forward? Would that be a separate NOI or a separate
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
That
Yeah, so
would
this-
be anyway.
Because that would,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, yeah. I
Because
think
this
that's what
NOI is just to
Denise
fix this issue, and then future projects to
Right.
resolve the runoff. If it's in jurisdiction and they need additional permitting, that's separate. This NOI is just for this, to resolve these issues.
We've had them come down to look at just the Beachway West portion in resolving this situation. But the work that they're doing is ongoing. We just started the program with them, back last month, so they haven't completed the work upland yet anyway, so it would be totally separate.
It's really about the material, I guess, we
Yeah.
have to replace the material, and we just,
Got it. I think it's smart that you're already doing the right things, you're addressing uphill, right? One question I had, how much gravel are you putting into the roadway? Like, how deep is that profile? that
We're
you're
taking out
proposing?
gravel.
You're
Yeah.
taking out gravel, but
And
you're-
we'll be putting in a layer of the stone, which is part of the satisfying of the SEC.
how much gravel is in there right now, like underneath you? Like
It's been measured,
round stone?
between 18 to 20 inches.
So that's a lot of gravel. You get a good amount of,
In places, it's not total, it could be 6 inches on one side and then 20.
It's a combination of gravel and impermeable fill, construction fill that was put in there over the years, so it's not just gravel.
so all the impermeable fills going in, and you're putting in gravel in its place.
Sand.
Yeah, well,
The wash stone and sand.
Yeah.
yeah, wash on probably 3/4 on the bottom and then,
Right,
then sand, yeah.
right.
I was just thinking if there was an opportunity for you to increase that gravel base to get more capacity, in the road itself, to make the road basically a big dry well.
That's why we're going to be having, that's why we're not determining the depth, and we'll also have the
Strong tree
commission
do that,
there
yeah.
to help us with that,
Yeah, so to the site visit thing, definitely want to go out, but I think that would be on the
Yeah,
next
now
NOI.
now I understand like what we're
sure.
doing with this violation,
But
and there's
there's-
like a bigger piece here.
Right.
the next NOI would be
A
the
big
water,
one, yeah.
the water study stuff, yeah.
That's good, because it seems like, you guys are probably investing a lot of time and money into making that right, so we appreciate that, for the movement.
Well, we have the stairs to, we want to keep those alive and for as long as possible and prevent any washouts.
I just have a question about the plantings. So, I mean, it's pretty vague. I don't think we need a full-blown plant list, but that's something that you feel comfortable you'd be able to work with them
Yeah.
on a staff level.
And
Yeah.
I can condition, if we go with an order of conditions, I can condition that planting requirement to include the list that you guys sent over, if you want those specific amounts in there as well. But as far as like if any of those plants need to change, or you find like, this type does better than another type or whatever, we can have some flexibility in that too.
I think our standard conditions would cover two things. One would be kind of the planting and the monitoring reports that we typically do, as well as with the gravel. I think a site meeting, I think a pre-construction site meeting, and then it might be worth it to do an addition. There's going to be excavation, so maybe post-excavation, there's another site visit.
There are, yeah, so I think we have more with raise and rebuilds, but I can include the conditions in this that just has multiple, site visits required to pre-construct, during and after, and, throughout the planting season too.
I think that just covers here's what the plan shows, what you're trying to rectify, what you're supposed to do. This just keeps everybody on the same page. You're doing what you're supposed to do. Typically we also do like a sand report as well, right?
Yep, yeah, to make sure it's the right sand. Yeah,
So I think if
not
we
sand
have all
sand.
that in the
Thank you.
order,
We don't want to do this again.
No, I want you to have to.
Yeah, just a couple questions. So I was there during the 2020 and the 2023. Yeah, and I've been there, I've saw it. I wondered what happened to the berm that was there and those concrete culverts. Were those ever taken out that were right along the sides?
So I can speak to that. if you don't. So the culverts, you're talking about, the two cuts that were made, those are filled in, they're not, they were filled in a long time ago, so
Okay, all
those
right,
aren't
just
there
curious.
anymore.
Okay,
And then the berm is still there. It's not part of this, we're not trying to do anything with the berm in this NOI. There's no issue with the berm currently.
Okay.
There was an issue back then, and DEP had an issue with it as well, but in a letter that they wrote, they said the berm will be addressed at some later date, so we're not doing anything about that at this point. But it might come up in the water study, that that berm needs to be something or other, but right now, we're not
all right, okay.
touching.
And then I remembered back then too, correct me if I'm wrong, there was the drainage issue it was gonna be cost prohibitive to actually go and do a whole study and try to figure out, from the top coming down, because that's where the real problem is, right? Is all the water inundation coming from the top down.
To some degree, at the top is pretty far uphill, but,
Quarter mile.
they've identified, Tom and Strongtree have identified sort of the key areas that are feeding that issue. So it's not as expensive to do the water study that we're doing now versus a 27-acre water study, which would be, forget about it. We're a small association, we don't.
This focuses on the higher
Okay.
impression areas
Yeah.
where we're getting water from. And,
Right.
Visually and, we've been out in storms and we watch and see where it goes and.
Right. Yeah, I've seen, and you can see where it cuts through you can actually see where it drains. And speaking of that, there were, again, memory serves, there were like large, I don't know, what are they called, culverts or dry wells, or anyway, we were wondering if they were actually draining into the right areas. Are those being used, is that addressed?
The basins?
The catch basins.
Catch basins, yeah.
The catch basins are still there. There's one of which that's up on Beachway Road, which we're gonna be taking a close look at, which is not even, it is probably maybe 30 yards away from Beachway West, but we're gonna revisit that as part of the water study. But Strongtree Engineering has a list of where all those catch basins are, and that's part of their analysis on what to do with them and how to approach it, to see if they can make use of them.
Okay. And the issues there was issues between the board, I know, and the residents. Is this you guys coming together? This is just my.
It is.
Oh, good.
This
Okay.
is us coming together.
Very nice to see. I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks a lot. I like it.
That's
Okay.
right. Thank you.
All right, well, yeah, we appreciate this filing for us to fix these issues and look forward to seeing you guys on the other one too.
Thank you very much.
Want to do a motion to approve this?
Yes.
It's 2069 is the last four.
Motion to approve DB file number SE 662069, Craig Johnson, care of Sandwich Downs Association, 9 Beachway West, East Sandwich, Mass. 02537, with standard and discussed conditions.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kimberly knows what this has been like, so
Good memory too.
That's right.
you made
Thank you.
my day personally, so.
And, yeah, glad to see you guys working together. Thank you.
All right, moving to certificates of compliance. Jenna, both of these were pending site visit, but I'm assuming good to go?
Yep, they were fine. Everything is planted and established really well. One of them was for a dock that was not constructed, and I can confirm that it is not there. And the other was for a retaining wall that they are right on the creek there. And that seems to be in good standing and well vegetated too. So I don't see any problem with recommending a full CFC.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to issue certificate of compliance for DEP file number SE 66-1420, Andrew Haas, care of Falmouth Engineering. Request for certificate of compliance for 7 Sunrise Lane, Sandwich, Mass, located map 83, lot 44.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, I'd like to issue certificate of compliance for DEP file number SE 66-1672, Andrew and Brenda Haas, care of Falmouth Engineering at 7 Sunrise Lane, Sandwich, Mass, map 83, lot 44.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Approved. Thank you. All right, then back to informal discussion. Brian or Glenn?
Yes.
Oh, kidding. All right. So I'm not going to open it, but we're just going to talk about this DEP file number SE 66-2022. So just informal requested an amendment process decision for a proposed pool at 7 Barbara Lane, Sandwich, Mass. Map 70, Block 140. Floor is yours.
Good evening, Glenn Arrington, Geocape Environmental Consultants for the owners of 7 Barbara Lane. This project started as a tear-down rebuild of the house and new septic system. The house is built, the septic system is in, and as the project progressed, the couple that purchased the property wished to have a pool put in. And I apologize I didn't do that at the beginning, which was nice, but this is where we're at. So I drew a plan for the land surveyor to stamp for a 40 by 15 swimming pool with a deck. We did propose lot coverages for all of their proposed items, and at this point, per the agent's guidance, I put in for a request for an amended order of conditions. The proposed work is within the AE flood zone, and there was mitigation, vegetation mitigation that was required for the difference in the size of the existing dwelling, which is shown, and the pool is where the requested area where the pool is over the vegetation, so the vegetation would have to be altered.
All right. Thank you. I'd like to open it up to public comment. Okay. Closing public comment, opening up to the staff.
So this is just a standard amendment process decision. This is not the formal amendment request yet. This is just to kind of see what you would like them to move forward with. This can be a formal amendment. This can be, all the different options that they've got, field change, admin review, those kinds of things. So it's just to see what we want to do moving forward so that they can make the changes to their current order of conditions. I didn't see anything hugely, egregious or different. It obviously would have been easier to issue it had it been included in the original plan, but obviously things change. I would just make note to include that any of the original restoration plantings that were in the pool area, obviously they're still responsible for planting them just elsewhere. But it's really up to y'all whether you want to do just a formal amendment request, and then we can talk, and I'll explain how to send that application forward. So
if I could add one more thing, there is a landscape architect involved with this project. So they'll certainly help with any of the vegetation mitigation and work it into the property very nicely.
We could also add, if this were to move forward with an amendment and approval, add the standard pool conditions that we would in any other pool project, no offloading of water on site, and then, anything else you might want to add in there.
What resource are we in?
Flood.
I know, it's flood zone.
That's it.
So that's
It's going to be a
where,
pretty tall pool.
and there's really, we don't have a lot of guidance from the state on how to handle flood zone. It's like this just giant gray area.
It's just like, I know a notice of intent's required, and that's,
I know,
the regs
that's all there is.
and they've been up in the air for a while.
It's to me, it's an improvable project. It's kind of more like, I'm interested in the process, right? Like, do you approve projects like this administratively? Is that
Not usually under an administrative review permit.
Yeah.
Typically, pools don't come before me in that sense.
right? They usually don't. So it's usually an amendment.
There's an amendment. There's, a field change. They're still mostly within their work limit, but obviously a pool's quite big change.
Bigger scope.
It's there or it's not. Or a new NOI. If you wanted to go that route, that's an option too.
Right.
I think an amendment
An
would probably
amendment,
help save
yeah.
any filing fees for the
Yeah,
applicant, correct?
and then that's just
I think that would
the
probably.
conversation that we have in a butters notification. There are requirements in there, but It's easier than a full new notice.
We'd still have a chance to review how it's,
Yes.
okay, all right.
Yeah, because that's the opportunity for you to provide, I mean, you've provided plans here, but if there's any other details and things like that that you would need, and then the file number changes to that AM1 on the end, so, yeah.
Pervious paving, you know, like details on what your paving is gonna be, because you're in that flood area, so we're kind of thinking maybe about, displacement of water and infiltration. So managing all of those things, but I think it makes sense to be an amended order under your current.
I know that, in looking at the lot coverage per the building, department, everything that is more pervious is certainly, is better and is not covered for lot coverage. So there's definitely an advantage to make everything as, pervious as possible.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the decision would just, go with an amendment,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
and then we'll see you back.
Okay, so we'll come up with an answer to those questions regarding the patio tile or whatever they're gonna use for the surfaces and then file.
Yeah, and I'll email you those instructions.
That'd be great.
For those requirements.
And the
It's nothing
mitigation,
crazy.
the new mitigation.
Yeah,
planting.
new mitigation, just double check, I don't think we're pretty strict with pools, but I think we all like to see them when they come in, because, we have some good, conditions in there.
Yeah, and
But,
then,
just double check, erosion control, site management, coming in and out of the site with trucks that are dirty, erosion control around lots that are piles of dirt that are staying there, stuff like that. That's what we'll look for.
Yeah, the erosion control for the septic in the house is still in place.
Yeah, okay.
And so that'll be maintained through the work.
Yeah, perfect.
Is there anything that you have to do on a separate note because you're putting the pool in your reserve area? You were permitted with
No, the reserve
septic.
area and the septic, has been moved closer to the house, so it's not in the reserve
So
area.
it's not anymore in the
Nope,
reserve
and
area.
we're maintaining a 20-foot setback from the reserve area for the pool.
Got it. Sounds like a plan.
Okay. No, we don't need to vote on anything, just, we'll go
We'll
right to
see you
amendment.
soon. It's
Yeah.
a we'll see you soon thing.
Yes, they are chomping at the bit to get this done.
We-
so.
Well, that was informal.
James, do you mind making a vote on that?
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
yeah.
just,
all right.
just
So
'cause
just
it's a
do a
decision.
motion to require an amendment for DEP file number SC66-2022, Brian Albano, care of Glen Harrington, GeoCape Environmental at 7 Barber Lane, the request for a proposed pool at 7 Barber Lane, Sandwich, Mass, map 70, lot 140.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you soon.
Look forward to that email, Jenna.
Yeah, I'll send it to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, so the two COCs, do you want us to approve them now?
Yeah,
Or do we
that's
want to
fine.
wait?
Oh, no, those COCs
We
for,
already done that.
yeah, for Beachway?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't do that yet, because
Exactly.
they
Okay,
didn't
good.
get the application in time.
Any other business, public comment, not public comment? Any other business? All right, like, make a motion to adjourn the March 18th, 2026 Sandwich Conservation Commission meeting at 7:08 PM. All in favor?
Aye.